Hello, this is Daniel. Going to do a homestead self-sufficient video today. It's going to focus in on being out of debt. I'm going to start out with the cars today, mainly because 3 of the 4 vehicles we have on the road are broke down today. So I'm going to be working on those. I thought I'd start out with this car here. We bought this car 2 or 3 years ago from a guy probably 60-80 miles away. We didn't even get home with it and the transmission went out. So it became instantly a worthless piece of junk. But we were able to hunt around and find another one similar to this one, almost identical. The computer, the VIN number, everything lined up. So we ended up calling this one Ishmael and scavenging it for parts. And it has turned out to be a real blessing, because the other car, we've kept it on the road by picking this car apart. You can see I've taken the front end struts, the rear axle, the steering linkage. I've taken a lot of parts off of this. I'm sure we got our money's worth out of the parts on this car. One time we took the other car, it's white, we took it to the inspection station and it failed. And the estimate was $3,500 to fix the other Volvo. Radiator, struts, exhaust, all the typical things. And I came home and stripped them off of this and put them on the other car and went back and for $1 got the car re-inspected. So just letting you know, one of the key things is working on your own cars, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So this is the other 2000 Volvo that we've been able to keep on the road for many tens of thousands of miles. We probably have 30 or 40,000 miles out of this car. Paid $500 for it and just scavenged everything off of the green 2000. Wheels, tires, exhaust, struts, radiators, air conditioning, computer module, seatbelt, just pulled everything out of that other car to keep this one going. It's done really well. Nathan's driving it now, my oldest son is driving it now. The air conditioning doesn't work in it, so Ingrid was done with it. And he'll see how many miles he can get out of it. But like I was saying, driving older, paid for stuff, has its advantage of being debt-free, which is the biggest thing I want to talk about on the homestead, is being debt-free. You can't be self-sufficient unless you're debt-free. So I'll talk about what happened this week. Ingrid hit a deer on the way home with her white Envoy, and then the window broke in the Explorer, so I'm gonna get that fixed today. And we're gonna go over some of the other repairs that need to be done. So let's get started. Start out today working on this little Ranger. Picked this up fortunately at a yard sale. I bundled it in with some other purchases, so I have very little in this truck. Probably about $100 I paid for this truck, but I've done a lot of work to it to get it on the road. Replaced the air conditioning system, replaced the front brakes. Has 70,000 miles on it. I had to put a new gas tank in it. I put a new fuel filter in it, but the gasket, you can see the puddle of gas underneath of it. The gasket on the fuel filter is not holding, so I'm gonna have to replace it somehow or another today, make a gasket or something. So that's on the list. I'm gonna get started on this first, and then we're gonna switch over and fix the window in the Explorer, and then we're gonna head over to the parking lot where the Envoy was left with a bad alternator. Just part of being debt-free on the Homestead. So this is the cover for the Ranger fuel filter, and you can see the Forma gasket sealant that I used, which is fuel resistant Forma gasket, but it clearly says on the instructions to let it get tacky dry before you put it together. Well, I immediately put it together and immediately turned the gas back on and drove it. So this time I'm going to clean it off really super clean. The key to a lot of mechanical work is just being sure everything's clean, and reapply the sealant and let it get tacky, put it together, and then allow it to dry for a couple of days before turning the fuel back onto it. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so I got the gasket cut out. I didn't cut it out to be cheap. I cut it out because the one that comes with the fuel filter absolutely would not seal it. So I ran some Forma gasket, gas resistant Forma gasket, inside here, and I put a little dab right here because it says to let it get tacky before you assemble it. So I'll let this get tacky, I'll put the gasket on, I'll put another layer of Forma gasket, put a little test spot here. When it gets tacky, I'll assemble it, I'll leave it dry, no fuel, for a day or two, and we'll see if that holds. So while we're waiting for the sealant, the gas resistant Forma gasket to dry on the Ranger, I thought I'd talk a little bit more about debt-free. So this was our farm truck around here for probably 2 or 3, well, actually we've had this truck 4 years now, and it did well. It had a utility body on the back of it, and we used it mainly for the tools and whatnot on the building of the house and just the infrastructure of the farm. But it didn't have four-wheel drive. It was an extremely rusty old truck. These square body Chevrolets, they just completely rust out. So I was in the process of trying to patch up the floors and trying to patch up the motor and all the different, maybe build a bed for the back of it, and I found another truck. This is the truck that I found when shopping for a daily driver. This is a square body Chevrolet, but it's a 1-ton. It's got a Dana 4-wheel drive front axle, and I've replaced everything in that front axle: bearings, lockout hubs, brakes. The rotors seemed like they were in pretty good shape. New shocks. It's got an NP 205 Turbo 400 transfer case in it, and it had gotten some water in it, so I'm going to do a video on rebuilding that. You can see the PTO box laying there. That is for the dump bed. And the thing about this truck is the cylinders, well, I won't be able to show you today, but the cylinders are just extremely huge, old, very powerful, I think, once we get it up and going. I've completely been through the rear axle, new springs, new shocks. You can see the bolts, new brakes, new brake lines, completely re-greased, re-bearings, bolts as necessary on the rear axle. Been working my way through on this truck. I took a lot of parts off of the old farm truck, as far as the exhaust, leaf springs. There were some leaf springs that were broken here, some that were broken on the old farm truck. Between the two, I was able to make one. I took this gas tank off of the other truck. It was new. I took the fuel pump, all that stuff off the other truck. Like I said, the exhaust. The point is, the advantage of having a parts vehicle that's similar to what you're driving. And this farm truck here, this square body, you can see the floor just has absolutely no rust at all. So I'm really excited about that. I put a quick coat of durable paint on the floor. Did a little bit on the rockers also. Like I said, all rebuilt front end shocks. As soon as I get the NP205 Turbo 400 32 spline transfer case back in, this should be done. I've got the wheels and tires. I put a coat of paint on those, armor all the tires. I've been through the engine, new carburetor, plugs, wires, distributor, battery, alternator, fuel pump. This is an AC cab. This is an AC cab right here. I'm gonna spin you around real fast. Over here, there's another junk square body. It has AC in it. So, I don't know. I might take the AC out of that and get that running and sell it as a non-AC farm truck that somebody can use for firewood or whatever. So we'll strip that down, get some parts off of that, and get the AC going in this cab here. Most of your farm trucks don't have AC, but this one will. All right, just a quick video. Maybe while we're waiting for that former gasket to tighten up just a little bit more, I'm gonna walk you over here to my, this was my daily driver, this Mighty Max. This was a super great truck I would jump in this and go anywhere. And unfortunately, I came home one evening really late, tired, didn't set the parking brake, and this truck rolled down the hill and hit a tree. But there again, I've got another truck identical to this, and I've already stripped the fender and the grill and bumper and everything off of the other truck, and I'm going to pull this dent out. I'm going to use my trailer. I'll put this truck up on the trailer, and I'll use my engine hoist, lay the engine hoist down right here and pull and attach it to the trailer and actually pull this out with the engine hoist. We'll do a video on that. Just driving home the point of having a parts vehicle that matches what you drive can be a real lifesaver. That truck is up in the woods. We have a scrap metal yard where we just pile up stuff that we don't need. But this is a good four-wheel drive truck. It'll be just a farm truck now, just to squeeze around tight areas on the farm. It won't be roadworthy anymore. Okay, so it got tacky. Our first little sample right there. And then I put the gasket in there, got the gasket down in there, and I put another layer of gasket sealer down in there on top of the tire tube gasket I made. I put some around the top edge. I don't know if that'll do any good. And I put a second spot of testing gasket, former gasket right there, so I can tell when it gets tacky. While I'm waiting on that, I'm going to get started on the Ford Explorer, the window. Let's walk over here real quick. You can see the window is down. It's come completely off the track. Let's take the panel off and see if we can get that window up and closed so it'll be drivable. Okay, got my tools loaded. Gonna go see if we can get the Envoy out of the church parking lot. Got the glass, took the panel off, put some more shims in. Got the gasket on the Ranger, on the fuel filter, let that dry for a couple of days. Here we go. Get to the alleyway. Did shut off on me on the intersection, but Matt came by and gave me a jump start. Got it here, got the alternator off, and the new alternator is the wrong one. So we'll have to pick up on this tomorrow, Monday. Thanks for watching.